Business is going to boom now that I got a personal letter of recommendation from General George Washington.
From the general himself?
Yes, I have.
You wouldn't be after telling a tale now.
Oh, no, Nora. I got it right here. It isn't everyone that can get a letter from General George Washington.
Know all men by these presents that the bearer of this letter, Master Horatio Prim,
That's me,
is a splendid artisan whose various skills have served the Continental forces well. I take great pleasure in recommending him to all who need the services of an excellent tinker and a true patriot. Yours truly, George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the United Colonies.
Welcome. I'm Kerriann Flanagan Brosky.
And I'm Joe Giaquinto.
And tonight we have special guests with us, Margo Arceri. So
hello,
welcome everyone. Welcome. And we hope you like Joe's little introduction there. That's one of Joe's favorite shows, right?
Well, you know, there's some connections which actually we'll point out tonight. There's actually a whole thread
with George Washington.
No more than that. Then Tinker. Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll remind you. But tonight we have some great stories. We're going to be, this is actually a part 2 from when we were doing our webinar on Strong's Neck, which we had Margo Arceri with us the last time, joining us, talking about the history of Strong's Neck, and we were concentrating on the Culper Spy Ring and all those heroic men and women, and we talked about walking the trails. And tonight we're going to go back even further, because Strong's Neck is really a very spiritual place. It's rich in history, and we're going to take you back to the Native American stories that took place obviously before the Revolutionary War. So as I mentioned, we have our good friend Margo Arceri. Joe and I have been working with Margo for about 15 years now, and interviewed her for many of the stories in the Ghost of Wyland books that I've written, historic ones of Wyland, and she really is an expert in her field. Margo was a past president and trustee of the Three Village Historical Society and president of the Strong's Neck Civic Association. She's a really well-known historian in the Strong's Neck Setalcott area. And she is also the president and creator of Spy Tours, where she guides cyclists, walkers, and kayakers through the actual trails where the British and the Patriots roamed. And she gives a whole talk as you go along. And because she is a wealth of information, we invited her back for this second part 2 episode on Strong's Neck. And we're going to be, as I mentioned, talking about the Indians, a massacre, and there are many ghost stories that have taken place in this area. Right, Joe?
That's right. And Kerriann and I spent a lot of time with Margo during our investigations in Strong's Neck and Setalcott, which spans several chapters in Kerriann's book. And the places we'll be talking about tonight are set in private hands, but you could have the opportunity to hear about the legends and the history, and also view the photos Kerriann and I took during our tours there. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce Margo Arceri.
Well, Joe and Kerriann, thank you both so much for having me. This is certainly a treat to be on 2 times, because you know how I love going on adventures with the 2 of you. So this is another adventure via Zoom. Kind of reminds me of our blog talk radio days.
That's right.
But
exactly.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, and I hope your viewers enjoy our stories of long ago with some twists and turns and some other things.
Exactly. And you are appropriately in the St. George's Cemetery, correct?
Yeah, this is the St. George's Manor Cemetery. This is where Anna and Celia Strong, as well as many other Smith and Strong descendants, are buried. Private cemetery here on Strong's Neck. It's an active cemetery.
Very good. And could you tell us a moment, if people are interested in your Spy tour, how they could get in touch with you for that?
Right now we're booking private tours only. We're taking groups up to 10, and it's a flat fee. So we're actually selling out. I'm pretty booked up until like the middle of July.
Oh,
So,
excellent.
it's been doing real well. But website's real easy to remember, culper.com. And or you can go to the Three Village Historical Society website and inquire through there.
Excellent. And people could sort of pick and choose what they want. Like if they're not a kayaker, they could just do the walking tour, or they could do a cycling tour, or combine all three.
Yeah, they're individual. And I highly recommend the walking if you're going to do it for the first time, because you really get the most bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much to see just right in the historic district where we walk around.
Mm-hmm.
So we really feel that the community is our museum. So you get a real nice museum tour.
Nice.
Okay. All right, great. And I hope you wrote down, everyone, that website. If you happen to forget, you could always email me and I will get you in touch with Margo. So as we normally do, we'd like to tell you a little bit about the history of the area before we start getting into the ghost stories. Then we have some EVPs to play for you, as well as we have many photographs. I think we have about 30 or so photographs. Again, never before seen, because they did not appear in the book, because there's so many of them. So we hope that you enjoy that. So as I had mentioned earlier, we had discussed the Revolutionary War, the last webinar. So tonight we're going to go back further to the Setalcott Indians who lived in the area. Now, the land of Strong's Neck was originally called Minnesota, which means Island of the Wild Huckleberries. The area that was once called Spy Coast Farm was considered the royal residence of the Setalcott Indians. And it was the perfect settlement location, and you'll see this in the photographs, because it's surrounded by all this beautiful water. It provided shellfish, bluefish, and striped bass to the Indians. And then there were forests, and it still has a good amount of woods even now. But back then they had wild turkey, deer, and quail. And they also had fields which allowed them to grow maize and root vegetables. Now the Indians grew herbs from seeds for medicinal purposes. And since the area was situated by bluffs which overlooked the Long Island Sound, it was a perfect vantage point for the Setalcott Indians to watch for incoming intruders. And I know, Joe, you want to say something. What exactly are the waters, Margo, that it's surrounding? It's Conscious Bay, and what else?
So well, it sits upon Setalcott Harbor.
Okay.
And then it's surrounded by Conscience Bay and Little Bay.
Okay.
And then that feeds from the harbor into Port Jefferson Harbor. And then from there, you'd go through the channel out into the Long Island Sound.
Okay, because it's a very interesting waterway. And that's why the spies, it was great, because they would go through these different waterways. All right, Joe, what do you want to tell us?
Sure. Oh, just that throughout the years, archaeological digs support the notion that the Setalcotts were a strong and active tribe who made this neck of land their permanent residence. There were arrowheads, wampum, fishing tools, and other artifacts that have been found throughout the Strong's Neck area. And Margo, you live on Strong's Neck, and you have found a lot of these items as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, since we were young, I mean, we used to, where Spy Coast Farm once was, it was previously known as Blueberry Bay Farm. It was actually the oldest continuously running farm in Suffolk County.
Oh, wow.
Until it was purchased and made into the horse farm.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when they would, till the fields, we'd go there as kids, and you would just find the arrowheads right there sitting there. We found some interesting stones that were probably tools. I know that on the other end of the neck, in 2 locations, they found remains of the Indian village with pieces of pottery and arrow points and things like that. So.
And where are those items? Are they at the Three Village Inn?
Although the Historical Society has some are still in the family's, private collection. Town of Brookhaven has some.
Right. Yeah, because I know you have a private
ones we found as kids,
yourself.
I think, are
yes,
long gone.
Yes.
We knew then what we knew now.
But I've seen some of your collection, and it's beautiful. What you have, because you've lived there your whole life. You grew up on the neck?
I did. Yeah, since I was 2 years old, and it's been my playground ever since.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend is a strong descendant, and really, we didn't go on vacations. We just roamed the neck, and it was perfect.
Right.
Whether it was winter, summer, spring, or fall. So there was always something to do, and always something a little different.
Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about, the farm, but to give a little bit more history, it was 6 European settlers that originally landed on the shores of Setaukett's Little Bay. And these men were John Scudder, John Sweezy, Jonathan Porter, Roger Cheston, Thomas Harlow, and Thomas Mapes. Now, Harlow and Mapes had already settled in New England and Southold, but were acting as agents for other prospective settlers. Now, they found the Setalcotts to be friendly and peaceful people, but unfortunately for the Setalcotts, the tribe was also a little too trusting, correct, Margo? I mean, they were peaceful, and then the white man came in, I think it was around 1655.
The April 14th, 1655.
Okay.
Setauket was the first town in the town of Brookhaven, so that is what you'll see the date on the town of Brookhaven seal.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from. You know, the natives thought they were going to share the land. Obviously, the white man's version prevailed, and it really went from the pond in Stony Brook all the way to Wading River. You know, past Mount. We previously thought it was near Mount Misery, but now there's been documents found that it went even further, probably to about as far south as like Middle Country Road.
Okay.
And you know, they traded for assorted items, some belts of wampum, 100 needles, some lead kegs, some knives, but an odd item was a pair of children's stockings. And most likely that was probably for the chief's son. So the chief sat on the neck, Minister Oak, the royal residence. They used to plant and farm in Oldfield. That's how Oldfield got its name. Those were the old planting fields of the Indians. Later on, we've also had discoveries of down near West Meadow Beach, Amy's Creek, there was a settlement. But interesting, on the other side of where present day Oldfield Club is, they found remains of almost like an industrial site where they would make arrow points. And we tried to figure out why they did that so separate from where the village was. It was probably because the shards, you know, of the stone coming off didn't hurt anybody. And they were mass producing arrow points at that point. So,
Margo, I have a just an off-topic question. We always talk about wampum being a trading item. People always think of it as just beads, just cheap beads. But were the beads actually were they considered sacred items? I mean, was this?
Yeah, well, they were from the purple of. If you ever look at a clamshell in that little purple section where that's where the knuckle hits it, it gets that purpley color inside. You know, it came from the land, so anything that came from Mother Earth,
yeah, that's right,
was always sacred. But that's actually the wampum was the purple section of those clams, and then they chip them away and grade them into the belts.
And I remember there was a time that we were with you, Margo, walking along the beach in Strong's Neck, and I found it was one of those dark, like the Indian red rocks.
Yeah, the painting pots. Well, that's what they used.
The painting pot, but this was completely had a circle.
Yeah.
A perfectly round circle. I still have it.
Yeah.
And there was a smaller rock in it. And it was fascinating to me because it had to have come from Indian times. I mean, you're still finding.
Yeah, I just found one recently the other day.
Oh, really? What did you find?
Yeah, one of the first things I teach the kids is you take another little rock, you wet it a little bit.
With the paint pots, yeah.
Yep, and then I said, tell me your favorite sport. I said, that's the first part of your Indian name. Now tell me your favorite animal. Right. I always got swimming duck.
There you go. Oh, I love that. The kids must love that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, Chief Gail Rivas, who we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. Her original long name was the Happiness of Running Water, and then later we found that she's shortened her name to just Chief Running Water. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you want me to, Kerriann, did you want me to talk a little bit
why don't you talk a little bit more about, with the Setalcotts, and then
if you want to go into,
to Gail.
Sure. So despite all the Setalcotts had lost, after the deals and everything, they remained friendly, and the settlers throughout the years. However, as more and more settlers arrived, and the Setalcott numbers in land began to dwindle until, almost all of it was lost. So future generations of Setalcotts began to intermarry, and much of their customs and language then became lost. There does exist a small group of Setalcott Indians living in Strong's Neck and Setalcott, and they are growing in number. We've actually interviewed, as I was mentioning, one of their chiefs, Chief Gail Joyce Rivas. many years ago for Ghost 2, your book, second book. And we met with Margo and Gail in the Strong's Neck Cemetery. So Gail was a fascinating woman. And I have tonight, we're going to treat everybody. I have the EVP where we had the hawk.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
actually, this will be the long version, which you haven't heard the whole version of this.
Oh, okay.
There's more to that story. So anyway.
All right. And to give you a little bit more background on Gail, I mean, again, this was a number of years ago because this was for Ghosts of Long Island 2, More Stories of Paranormal. So that was what, 2009, 2008 time period. Margo had introduced us to this woman, Chief Gail Rivas, who was a Setalcott Indian, and she was going to tell us about the area of Strong's Neck, like Margo was. And we had met in St. George's Cemetery, as Joe had mentioned, and she brought out this blanket, this medicine wheel, and that she had hand painted, and it was absolutely magnificent. She was in complete Indian garb. And her story was so fascinating that I decided to make 2 chapters in that book and give her one story just of her own, because she was a medicine woman and she would have visions and all these things that happened to her. And she told us about how when the vision started, when she was actually in high school, and very, very difficult time for her. But she came out of this very spiritual, and I don't know, I don't even know how to describe her because she's so unique. But you haven't seen her for some time, right?
Quietly intense.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good
one.
word.
I would describe
Kerriann, remember Kerriann? I showed you. I found that link where she was in Europe doing
right.
or
Yeah.
doing. Well, I found more. She's done more videos. It's not recent. But 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, fascinating person. If you could get I mean, the Ghosts of Long Island
for
books.
Years. I don't know where she is.
Yeah, I know. We sort of lost touch with her, which is a shame. But if you're interested in seeing that story, the Ghosts of Long Island books are still available in e-format. You can get them for Kindle because it really is worth reading her story. Now, to get back to the Setalcotts, as we said, they were a peaceful tribe. And there was a terrible massacre that had actually taken place during that time period with another tribe from it was from Connecticut, right, Margo, the Pequot Indians.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and about the legend.
Absolutely. So allegedly, the Pequots were, I think they were. They were a warlike, nation, and they like to have battles. And the Setalcotts were very peaceful. They were a strong tribe, but small. And somewhere on the shores of Strong's Neck, most likely across from Pequot, they landed. And while the men of the tribe were in Oldfield planting, a lot of the women and the children were slaughtered on the neck. And Wyandanche's cousin was sent over to kind of calm things down. And there is some belief that his spirit is still around today. There's a couple pieces of property that, especially at one end of Strong's Neck, right near Spy Coast Farm, that all the men have died in very strange ways over the years.
And I had an experience.
And there's one house in particular that, just one family after the next have come and gone, and tragic things have happened to each one, whether it was, bankruptcy, sickness, gambling, the list goes on and on. And but the odd thing is all the men and the women all stay. I don't know if you want me to get into all this now.
Yeah, I mean, you could expand on it a little bit more.
My next door neighbor's father died on the property. My father died on the property. And all the, everyone that keeps being left are the women. And it's odd because it's all these strong women, Kate, Anna Smith Strong, so throughout history, since this happened with the Indians, this female strong presence has been on the neck. And I always, Kate used to write, the true tales of early days on Long Island, I wanted to always write true tales of strong women,
Yeah.
kind of a play on Strong's Neck, because there definitely is this, theme throughout generations of this female woman that, this female that sort of rises and, who is an ordinary person, but ends up doing extraordinary things,
Mhm.
like Anna and like Kate and,
Right, exactly. And when you
like
go
Gone Home
there,
Needs to Come.
right. But when you go there, there's definitely, as soon as you cross into Strong's Neck, and we've been there multiple times, there is definitely a shift in the energy.
The energy, yeah.
And it is more feminine, Margo. I feel that is correct. And Joe had a little bit of trouble on multiple times when we were there,
we
of
went,
feeling
especially-
sick and not.
Well,
In my
remember-
house that one time, remember?
That's right. I had to actually leave. I felt like I was being driven out. My chest, my heart was racing. My chest started getting heavy, and I started feeling ill, and I had to leave. And then as soon as I left that zone, the energy went away.
Yeah, it really is.
Feel it. I mean, I feel them sometimes watching me, and
Mhm. Yeah.
But is that the
Definitely.
chief? Is that Chief Wyandanch then? That maybe
that was his cousin who was here. I don't know who it is. I mean, I know my neighbor, the house next to us is we're a little higher up, and they kind of slope down a hill, and their kitchen was sort of in between the first and second floor, so you couldn't stand outside the kitchen window and look in.
Mhm.
You'd have to be on a ladder or something. And she had someone come there to kind of do a cleansing on the house. And a little time after that, it was the middle of winter, she said she saw, an Indian head out there with full headdress. And then she kept thinking, oh, it's the kids next door. But then she realized, oh, it's not Halloween, and they can't reach my window. So each of the people around here have had a little different experience, and when we get into the stories a little bit later, where there's certainly ones we'll talk about, especially at Spy Coast Farm. But
and so these experiences that people they're recent then, so they're still going on.
I had something not too long ago, so we'll share that when we start telling.
Oh, okay, great.
Or,
Um,
do you want me to?
let me see, where are
into the
we?
stories, into the sightings?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
Might
that
as
kind of
well.
leads us into the ghostly sightings and what's believed to be a possible curse on Strong's Neck. So people, and as you mentioned, they've seen the specter of an Indian chief roaming the fields.
Mhm.
And I think, Margo, you had a medium come to the area, and is he the one you were talking about?
I think
my
that
next door
was.
neighbor did.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Why don't we
well.
start with that, because we are up to.
Yeah.
the
Well,
ghost-
that was the one I was telling you about in the
Oh,
house.
with the house. Okay.
Okay.
But there was a woman in particular at the time. Well, first let's get into the Spy Coast Farm. How long was it called Spy Coast Farm? Do you remember? So it was another.
It was Blueberry Bay Farm.
And that was a horse farm prior.
No, it
or
was
regular farm?
they grew many different crops. They were actually a Black Angus farm. They had cows and pigs, and then they did soybean farm for a long time,
Mhm.
and then they sold, and then it became Spy Coast Farm for many years into the horse farm, and now it's with a private family, but they also still have horses there.
Okay, but the name has changed. So at the time
There
that
is no
we
name
were there.
anymore now.
Oh, it doesn't have any name
No,
at
it
all?
doesn't have a
Okay.
name, no.
Oh, okay. So how long was it Spy Coast Farm? I mean, it was a number of years when we
I
were
would say
there.
at least 10 years,
Okay.
maybe longer.
Right, because I remember
Yeah.
we were there a couple of times.
Right,
And
we were.
you
And I
had,
think a different time period. We were there in the winter or
yes,
something. And
the
then
winter and then in the summertime. Yeah.
by the way, I
because-
just want to say, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, Margo, it's interesting because actually one of my nieces actually worked for Spy Coast on an internship.
No, really?
She's a veterinary doctor. In fact, she is going to be a doctor like this week. Like she
Oh,
went
wonderful.
up for her boards.
I probably know her.
And she actually worked at their Kentucky. I think they have an office.
Yeah, sure. Well, Spy Coast Farm still does exist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
In Kentucky and Florida.
Right.
They don't have their New York location anymore.
Right. Yeah, I remember them seeing them at the Hampton Classic and that type of thing. Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
stable.
very,
I mean,
very nice.
really, really magnificent. So at the time when we went there, it was Spy Coast Farm. That's why we're still calling our webinar tonight
Right.
Spy Coast Farm, even though the name has changed. But we had interviewed the owner, Lori, and a groom from Ireland named Susie. And Susie had some amazing stories. Do you want to tell some of those, Joe? And Lori was one of the most skeptical ones in the group, the owner of the farm. But she had agreed that things were, things were different.
You mean about how the nameplates on the stall?
Yeah, that was Susie's story. So
yeah, they would be changed and then switched to other stalls, and then bags of shavings would mysteriously fall over when no one was near them. They also saw shadowy figures. Right,
exactly. And if you remember, Margo and Joe, a few weeks after we were there, Susie got in touch with me again about another incident. There were actually two incidents. One involved a young rider who had taken a photo of the barn, and through the glass, there was an image of an Indian chief. Do you remember this story, Margo?
Yep, I do.
And it was one of the children, and he ran and he showed his mother. He's like, look, I have an Indian in this window. Then there was a fellow groom that Susie had worked with that actually saw another type of apparition. And this person has been seen a couple of times. Susie described it as that her friend, this other groom, saw a man from just the waist up, so there were no legs, and he was wearing a ruffled shirt and he had long black hair. So I always thought that might be someone from the revolutionary times. And she was so frightened that she said he was about in his mid-30s, and she was so frightened when she saw him, she looked away, and then as soon as she turned back, the image was gone. So Susie had called me to tell me those two stories about the child and about her fellow groom.
And I just want to chime in on that. That's very common with these apparition appearances, because you really do just see them for a split second.
Yeah, and you have to be in the right place at the right time, right, Joe?
And you do. And some people see them out of the corner of their eye. Some people see them just full front on like that.
Right.
But what's interesting is that they do appear really for a split second. And it's just like the time, the place, the lighting, and their energy just has to be triggered on that imprint in that spot. And then you see them and they're gone. And I mean, I really do think sometimes that maybe we even see them in our mind, that the spirits just somehow they plunk them into our third eye. So they're not really physically appearing in the place, because you could have two people standing in the same spot. One sees it, one doesn't.
Well, in this case, it was the groom saw it, and there was no one else with her.
Right.
So she was telling the story to Susie. Right. But then Susie called me again a couple months later to tell me that she saw the same person, and it was months later. So this is from my book. She told me that she was going back to the barn. It was winter, so it was dark out. It was around 7 o'clock, and she realized that she had forgotten something in the barn. So, it was dark since it was winter, and she pulled in, and you know how like you leave your headlights on and they hit the window a certain way. Well, her headlights hit the barn. And when she got out of the car, she saw this man like in the barn, like through the window. And she described him as a man from the waist up, and he had the white ruffled shirt, long black hair, and he appeared startled, and she stopped. And she actually said she saw him take a step backwards and then just completely disappeared. And she went into the barn. There was no one there. She then got into her car, changed the angle of her car to see if maybe she was seeing things and it was a trick of the light from the headlights. And, but that was it. But she swore that she saw him. And again, he was in his mid-30s, and she really believed that he was the same person that the other groom had seen months before.
Yeah. And again, that whatever she did with the lighting, with the car headlights, that triggered that imprint to appear in just the right spot. The other person saw it at a different time during the day or whatever, but I had an experience like that. I saw an apparition once driving home when the headlights.
I remember that. That was in Hampton Bays. Yeah.
It
And your
was,
mother
and
saw it as well.
We both saw it, and neither of us said anything about it. And we pulled up the driveway. I said, "Did you see?" Before I could even finish, he says, "The man in the long black coat walking across Montauk Highway," and we both saw it, and it was clearly. So I could totally see how Susie would have seen that, because it's a very common thing. So anyway, sorry.
And you wonder, like, is it an imprint, or is it, because in this case, Susie said that he almost seemed like he was startled, which is interesting, which leads me to believe that maybe
maybe it was a spiritual, maybe he appeared.
Yeah, that it wasn't just an imprint on the environment,
Possibly,
that it was actually, a ghost.
Yeah, or maybe the whole film strip playing included him stepping back, because what I find interesting is they both saw the spirit, the ghost, from the waist up. So I it sounds like it was the same film strip playing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Margo, there were some other things
about this fellow, though. So I always remember these stories. I always took pictures of the trail right at the farm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a year ago, I think I told you about this, Kerriann. I was deleting items on my phone, and I said, "Oh, I have so many pictures of the trail. Let me just delete it." And all of a sudden, what is that white dot? I know there was nobody in the trail when I took this picture. So I kept blowing it up and lighting it up. And here we have, I don't know if you can see the man. Hold on, let me, because I have.
Oh, it's the same color. It's the green screen.
So the man with the white shirt.
It's disappearing. Let's see.
I don't know if you could see it.
It's hard to
email
see.
it to you.
It's
I have a virtual
disappearing.
background, so it's hard to see.
Right.
Could you move it over to
man
one
that Susie
side?
always talked about appeared in my photo, and I said,
And that was a year ago?
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, he's still around, yeah.
Wow, you never showed me that picture.
I thought I told you about it.
Yeah, we should have put it up on our screen tonight for the viewers. Yeah, I don't remember the story. That's amazing. And what area of the woods was it? How far was this from the barn where the other sightings had taken
Right across,
place?
that little trail right across.
Okay. And it's interesting because the times that we've been on the trails,
Mhm.
I had the distinct feeling one time, and we may have mentioned this in the last
I
webinar,
remember this.
of being followed. And I felt like they were
Yeah.
children. You know how children like sneak up and run right behind you, and then when they get close to you, you turn around and then like they run off. That was the feeling that I had. And I remember you and Joe were talking and you were ahead of me. I was back a bit. I must have been
I remember
photographing.
that. Yeah.
And I was like, I got to catch up with them because I'm like with the ghosts here. And
Right.
it was very strong. So I couldn't tell. My sense of it was that they were children from Revolutionary War times, not Indian children. But then other times that we've been there, I felt that Native American, that very spiritual and deep feeling walking through those trails. So, but there's so many things. I mean, there's been
Definitely
things
a
like the
lot of
houses.
spiritual energy there.
Yeah, definitely. And then Margo, some of Susie's other stories, I mean, she would hear her name being called.
Oh,
when
yeah,
no
she'd
one was
heard her
around.
name.
Yeah, so tell us some of the stories that you've heard or other things that you have experienced.
At Spy Coast Farm in particular, or the Neck?
I both, start with the farm and then we could expand because I know that there's stuff in the Cedars and the Upper Barn also.
I mean, I know that the barn near Kate, the Red Barn, which we spent some time at, where we heard the cannon shots.
Right.
They've had some odd things happen over there. It hasn't been active in several years, so the stories have sort of dwindled down. But especially at Spy Coast, you can kind of feel them around, and they follow you. Like that. I think the fellow with the white shirt, Susie and I always joked. We said we think he was a little in love with her. Like he would follow her, and he was certainly smitten with Susie. But I think just in general, everyone who worked there had an experience. So it wasn't just like one random time or two random times. I mean, everybody who was there had strange things happen to them. So I think that in itself speaks volumes, because it's not just, some, kind of, random,
Right.
happenings, one or two times, like, could this have happened? Could somebody exaggerate or maybe looked at it differently? But they had 20 employees. Every person who worked there had something, occur.
Right.
It's really unbelievable. Now, have you heard anything recent there? Do you know the people that
I haven't really been that much in touch with them over
Mhm.
there, so I don't know. But I mean, there's a lot of activity going on right now in this area, with building and renovating. So,
Mhm. And that sort of stirs things up, right?
yeah. So we'll see what happens. Well, to be
Right.
continued.
Yes.
Well, I'm
And
glad
what
the
else?
cold weather is over. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else? Tell us more about the things that have occurred on Strong's Neck then, as a whole. Because the farm itself was on about what, 35 acres? Originally,
25. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
there's this whole, center section of the neck that's never been developed, and many of us hope it never is. But I think there's something strange with that section.
Mhm.
Why hasn't it been developed? Rawson, who previously owned the farm, they had the whole side of Brewster Lane. They had Brewster in between Dyke. They had the other side near the cemetery. I mean, it was a large farming community. And then there's another area of the neck, which is Gall Road and Gun Path, that they found remains there, the builders of that little development that was built later on. It used to be the cauliflower fields.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I think there's some happenings over there. I mean, it's interesting because you have these little micro sort of clusters of different things that happen at different sections of the neck.
Mhm.
One area has certain occurrences, another one has certain ones. There's definitely a Native American presence, but you do feel a lot of the Revolutionary War as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you feel the soldiers. Like when we walk up those trails,
Yeah.
that people have trekked these before, from colonial times.
See, I have a question. So, that we have, of course, we have, Margo, the place memory, the imprints, the, residual hauntings, but then we have actually the spiritual presence that
Right.
watch over, that we interact with, that you've talked about tonight. Do you get a sense from the spirits they're happy about the upkeep of the place or the development, or they're not happy that things are changing there? What do you ever get a sense from them, what the spirits feel about the whole neighborhood?
People who live here truly are in love
Mm-hmm.
here. Where it's not Oldfield, it's not Belterre, it's not Head of the Harbor. I mean, there's
Right.
sort of newer homes going up, and they're redoing these, little old bungalows or beach type of summer residences. People truly love this land.
That's good.
And I think that's from the beginning, from the natives. This is very much an old school. Kids know how to fish, kids know how to clam. You have a boat, you have a sailboat, you have a paddleboard. Somebody has something to do with the water here, young or old. And I think they like that because we're carrying on tradition.
Yeah. And even for yourself, I mean, you get around in a golf cart, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's a big
it's just,
thing now.
yeah, you can, it's just like the small
Yeah, it's
community, but you
like a little
really,
village.
yeah, but you feel
It's
like
a village within a village of a village.
yeah, but you
exactly.
feel like you're going back in time. I mean, there's absolutely, and Joe and I have investigated well over 100 places throughout Long Island. There is no place that I can say that is like Strong's Neck.
It's
Not
so
not at
beautiful.
all.
And when you see the pictures, when our audience sees the
then you'll
pictures tonight,
see.
you'll see
Yeah.
how beautiful it is.
Well, it has an interesting history. I mean, as we said, the Setalcotts, first inhabited this area. And then when those, early colonists came in 1655, there was a lot of squabbling going on over the neck.
Mhm.
The Indians have it, the settlers get it. They wanted this. And so then it became known as Ye Little Neck. And then because of this squabbling, a land patent was given to William Tangier Smith. And he was given this northern section, and he called it St. George's Manor. And then he was given a large tract of land on the south shore, the Manor of St. George. So hence Smith's Point on William Floyd Parkway got its name because it was the point of William Tangier Smith's property. And actually the Manor of St. George is still owned by the Smith family off of William Floyd Parkway over there in Mastic.
It's interesting, Kerriann, in the next book.
Well, Well, yeah, well, it's not in there though, not St.
Yeah.
George's Manor, something else.
No, it's
that's-
not. No, I know.
from the
No,
same
but
family.
Anyway,
anyway,
so the Strongs
Nothing
fell on it.
about
They
it.
actually had a middle section on the neck, which is now owned by the
Right.
town of Brookhaven, the Longwood Estate, because
Right.
they didn't want to bring the
That's-
livestock back and forth all the way.
Right,
So
Right.
that was kind of like a holding area. But they
yes.
fell on hard times and they sold this northern section to a fellow by the name of Andrew Seton. And Seton was a loyalist. And when the war broke out, he also had a large farm in New Jersey. So he kind of abandoned ship here,
Mm.
went to the Jersey farm. But the problem was he never finished paying off the Smiths. So now we bring in Anna and Seela, who were up in Belterre, Mount Misery at the time.
Mm.
And that's how they ended up on the neck. And then after the Revolutionary War, the Strongs purchased the neck at auction. And then it became known as Strong's Neck, which it is today. And up until 1917, there were only 4 homes here, all owned by the Strong family.
Mm.
And then they started to subdivide. So that's pretty late.
That's
You know,
Yeah, and we were in 2 of them with
We
you.
were in 2 or 3 because where I live was
Right.
was the 3rd home that burnt down.
Right.
Okay, that's
So
right.
that's a neat story onto its own.
Yeah,
Let me just tell this quick because I love this story.
okay.
Sure.
So my father passed away when I was young, and we always remember he had a picture of the mansion that used to be on the property we are now. There's now 7 houses, but at once it was one Strong estate. It was Judge Seela Strong's house. And I went nuts looking for this picture, and I couldn't find it. Just so happens I had an appointment with the archivist at the Historical Society on Tuesday, and I said, oh, when I go there, I'll ask about if they have any pictures of it. So this is the end of the early November, and our friends owned this little farm, and they gave me a bunch of azaleas, and I had them on the side of the house. I'm like, I gotta plant these things. My neighbor is my witness. My mother was here, so I'm digging the holes, and I poured a bucket of water in before I put the azalea in, and it smelled like I poured water on a fire, like at the beach.
Oh, I remember you telling me
Right.
this.
Yes, I
Yeah.
remember
My
that.
neighbor came over. She said, "Is something burning?" I said, "No, I just poured water in this hole." I said, "You smell that?" So I put the plants in, blah, 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 blah. Kind of forgot about it. So that was Sunday. Tuesday, I went to the archivist and we're looking through the other stuff I wanted to find. I said, oh, do you have anything on Judge Seela Strong's house? So we dug and dug. We finally found an article in the Port Jeff Echo. And it said, this past Sunday, 4 o'clock, Judge Seela Strong's house burns down. Exactly
God.
80 years to the day and time that the house burnt down, I poured the water in that hole and smelled it.
Definitely.
Oh
that
my
was-
gosh.
Yeah,
That
no,
was a completely haunted event.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Then I
incredible.
came home. I said, I found the article, and guess what
Wow.
else? I mean, what
That's
is-
incredible.
No, so that's I think they like to give back and
Yeah,
to let you know that we all love the land. We work this land.
Yeah, that was
Right.
like a little birthday celebration.
Yeah, and that was a great little gift.
it really was. And then tell us about the other 2 houses. So St. George's Manor, we have pictures of these
So that's
houses.
Jack Strong's house, still
Right,
owned
and
by-
that came before the Cedars, right?
yeah, the Cedars. He built that for his children, so it's an exact replica, a mini version.
Okay,
And then
Alright.
there was Judge Seela Strong's house, which is no longer there.
right.
Which is right past Spyco's farm.
Mhm.
And then there's another house, the Betty and James Strong house, which is still there. And that's on the other end of the neck, kind of like the northwest corner.
Okay, yeah, that
Those
one
are
we
the
haven't
only
been
two
to,
rooms
but we
there.
did do investigations in St. George's
St.
and
George.
And the Cedars and the land.
Cedars. Yeah,
where
and
Judge
the upper
Seela
barn,
Strong's
yeah.
house was, right.
And it was at St. George's that it was the clock that they were having problems with.
Right, yeah.
We were talking about the haunted clock.
Yep, absolutely.
So
that we
there's
did
a, you
webinar
think
on that.
about,
There's a
yeah,
lot
you
of
think about all the
things.
stories, such a fun place to explore.
Yeah, it
Even
really
haunted,
is.
it has a pulse and a heartbeat all
Spiritual.
spirit.
Very
spiritual.
spiritual.
Now, with the Indians, that when they find these remains, I mean, what have they done? There's no designated area that's for the Native Americans at this point, right? That's considered a
Well,
sacred
there's
burial
an area
ground.
near Christian Avenue, the Bethel AME district,
Mhm.
which was designated an historic district, and those
Oh,
are
they have, okay.
direct descendants of the Setalcotts.
Oh, okay. And
Good.
anything that they find, the remains, does it go
I
to
don't know if
that
they
area?
found anything. I don't think people have found anything for a long, long time.
Right.
On the houses, like your house, have you made them considered, or should they be considered like landmark properties, or
I
they're
mean,
too
you'd have to do all 3 village then, because it's all
right? That's
on
true.
Long Island.
That's true. Yeah. People don't that's a good point you bring. Kerry and I talk about this all the time, how underrated Long Island is for its history, its rich history, especially the Revolutionary War and the Culper Spy Ring. I mean, they did the show Turn on it. There's just so much, much to the Long Island that people don't even realize is in the backyard.
Yeah, I
And
know,
you have the whole
especially.
Montauk and the
Yeah.
Camp Hero, and well, first the Native American thing there, and then the
Mhm.
Montauk
Yeah.
Project. So
Right.
that's an
Yeah.
awesome. And
I
then
know
Montauk
that is.
Manor.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
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 We won't get into that. We'll be
Yeah. And it's all connected. I mean, how many stories have we
Connected.
done with the Culper
Yeah.
Spy Ring from Raynham
Right.
Hall? And
yeah.
it's still in the new book that's coming out, Haunted Long Island Mysteries. It's still a theme in there, as is the Native Americans, which I've just always been so fascinated by. And as you mentioned, Montauk Manor, we did a webinar on that where we discussed the Indian chief, and that was built over Indian graveyards. And there was a massacre that had taken place next door, which is currently the Fort Hill Cemetery. So unfortunately, there's a lot of these things that are going on. In that case, it was the Narragansetts, the two tribes that were really, as Margo said, warlike destroyers were the Pequots and the Narragansetts. And it's a shame because they came here and they killed off the Montauk Indians, they killed off the Setalcott, and it was a sad time in our Native American past and history. So why don't you want to play some EVPs first, Joe, and then we'll do the photos, or what do you want to do first?
I'll do that. I have the photos ready to go.
Okay.
So we'll do those first, and then the Pequots. That's the same.
That's the
That's
Connecticut tribe.
Connecticut Foxwoods, right?
They own Foxwoods.
Foxwoods,
Mhm.
right? So the warring slot machines.
Yeah, they still right. So I wonder. So there are still members of those tribes, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. All right, so we're going to look at the photos. And Kerriann, I threw a few in my own at the end. You had a lot of beautiful photos. So some of these my photos may not quite jive with.
Mhm.
I mixed a few in. So you
Okay.
you just tell me if I got the wrong location. You could just narrate.
Yeah,
these.
Margo will help us too, because some of
Yeah.
these I'm not even too sure
Okay.
of. So long ago.
All right, here we go. Can you see that?
Okay, yeah, this is a photo I took, and this is during the snow. I mean, it looks like a painting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So
good.
what's the waterway now?
So that's Pirates Cove on your top left there.
Okay,
So
and the
that's
house?
Jefferson Harbor. That's just a neighborhood house. That's the corner of the horse field. That's
Okay,
right.
so
love
that
that.
wasn't part of Spy Coast. That was a neighbor then.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another view of it.
So
and-
beautiful. There's the Adirondack chair.
Mhm. So again, this waterway is
That's all Port Jefferson Harbor.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's just beautiful. You could go a
It
little
really
slower,
is.
Joe.
Sure.
Yeah, I love this one.
Yeah, I love the way the rocks lead out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very, very beautiful. Okay.
Phragmite.
Where's that?
That's
the other end of the property there.
yeah, and that's actually those chairs we just saw in another photo that was looking out onto
Yeah.
the water. This is
Gotcha.
the other view of it.
That little outbuilding over there, is that just a,
Yeah,
is that
just a,
storage?
just a little storage barn.
Okay. Love that
Another
bridge.
view of that.
Yeah.
And here you could see a little bit more of the stable, how it was set up.
Horses.
That was a winter visit, right, Kerriann?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at the vastness of this.
It's incredible. It's, Margo, when you think about, you were talking about town of Brookhaven, like the Longwood, where, I mean, these properties stretch from the North Shore to the South Shore. I mean, these people owned thousands, tens of
it's
thousands of
incredible.
acres.
It's really incredible, Joe, how much land it was.
I know. I mean, we're happy to get our little piece of property with a 100-foot backyard.
Right.
But these people own tracts of
Yeah.
land. Look at this.
Yeah, this is an amazing piece of property. Now this, where is this, Margo?
That's at
I
the
couldn't remember.
Cedars.
Oh, it is at the Cedars. Okay,
Yeah.
we have a photograph of that house.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
this
here's
is-
the cedars, and we showed this in the last webinar, but I think we showed the other side. This is actually the front, which is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
This house, and
And
we
this is actually the miniature of the
Of the
St.
St.
George's.
George's Manor.
yeah, and this we did an investigation, and Susie had also had experiences here. I think she said a lot of orbs were seen in this house,
Yeah.
and this also offers beautiful water views.
Yeah, this is the kind of house that you would have like a dollhouse would be made for someone,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
someone's
yeah.
child. You know, it's so beautiful.
Oh, here we
That's
are.
going us into St. George's Manor House.
That's the
Right.
St. George's, right?
Yeah. And that's the Kirkpatricks
Mhm.
from Redcoats and Petticoats.
That's right, right.
Wow.
Okay, so here's a picture of Susie, the groom, and this was in
That's in
this
the
was in the
theater.
Cedars, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Joe doing on investigation,
Doing my
roaming the
thing.
halls. Roaming the halls. This I
Every
think
hall-
they were.
And every room had a different personality.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was the third
energy-wise.
floor. I guess
Yeah.
they were renovating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're renovating. I love that stairway.
Now this is not.
That's at the Manor House. That's
Yeah.
St. George's Manor.
That's
Yeah.
St. George's, right?
So this the only thing different with the two houses, the staircases are reversed.
Oh, really? Interesting. And I think the clock in here. I think that was the clock
Yeah,
that
that's
was
the clock
haunted.
in the
That
corner.
one
there.
Yeah.
right over there, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And what
that's
was
the
this?
sketch of St. George's Manor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have the original sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think there was an inscription at the bottom, something with Seal Strong,
Yeah.
Judge Strong on there.
Yeah,
right?
Judge Sheila Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Honorable Judge Sheila Strong Esquire. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that doll's a little freaky in the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't put I had.
Where did
I
you
had
come
hope-
from?
I know, exactly.
was-
Just sort
I
of
had all
there.
these doll pictures that I took, right,
Oh,
Kerriann? I was into
oh my
the doll,
God.
the haunted
So
doll thing.
funny.
So,
So
but I didn't
funny.
include those tonight. There
Right.
you are.
Oh, yep. On
We're
assignment.
so young.
Oh, so now we're in the springtime. Well, I like that one picture you had of Margo and I in the
I
beginning.
know. I
Oh,
was
you like that?
oh,
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. We
Yeah,
were
if you want any of
yeah.
those pictures, I've got a bunch of them. Was when you were going by the rocks that went out to the
Yeah.
water and all.
So this was a springtime. Oh, this is a great shot. This must
Yeah,
be
so this
one of
is
yours.
St. George's
Joe.
Manor House. Look at the woodwork on the
Yeah.
staircase.
It's so beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful
Yeah.
craftsmanship.
Really nice.
So that's
And
St.
there's the
George.
St.
outside.
George's.
Yeah.
I remember us, Kerriann, I remember us pulling up to that driveway and that was fun.
Yeah.
Both
And now-
has 9 fireplaces.
Look at that.
yeah, look at all the chimneys. Now, how far, I don't remember, Margo, how far is this from the Cedars?
If you went behind the house and you took a direct line past it, I mean, there's other houses there now. They connected on a little path.
Okay. And then how
Okay.
far are these houses in conjunction with Spy Coast?
If you kept going, you would hit them. So you're talking
Because how big is Strong's Neck
350
overall?
acres.
350 acres. Okay. And here's another one of our
Is
trail
that
pictures.
Pirates Cove?
Yeah.
Or what's it called?
Cedars.
Cedars Cove. Okay.
Oh, I love this picture. I
Yeah.
think we had this. And you're holding the ghost meter. I remember how much you enjoyed using the ghost meter, Margo.
Did.
And so the shot.
And so,
there.
yeah, here's the shot from before, but in the springtime. I mean, look at the grass. It's just
Oh, it's
magnificent.
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at this. I love this shot.
Yeah.
It just leads you, you know.
Yeah.
it's-
Some
Is
beautiful
this one of the
trees.
horse tracks or horse?
Yeah, well, they double fence it, so in case they jump, I guess.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that, a silo over there? Grain?
It's somewhat,
silos?
when it was when the pigs and the cows were there, the bulls.
Oh, okay. That's left over.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's where they kept the grain.
Yeah.
Look at this. Yeah, it's what a difference in it when you come into the summertime.
Yeah. I know it really is. Here's some fences now set up for riding.
Yep, jumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. Just look at that complete transformation in the summer.
Yep.
It's a nice.
And
view.
that's the houses in the background there. We didn't go. Is one of them
No,
the
there's a-
barn?
No, that's on the other side.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because we didn't go into the
You know,
houses at Spy Coast.
You know, I'm remembering Kerriann and Margo how much walking we did that day.
Yeah.
Those 2 visits. It was like
Yeah.
was it like a mile from one place to
It
the
really was.
Pretty much.
Lugging all the equipment.
Yeah. That's a different house. That's not
Mm.
the
No,
St.
that's
George.
just, yeah.
I love this picture.
Yeah, that's nice with the rocks. It almost reminds me of Montauk a little bit,
Yeah.
you know. It's nice.
Snowy egret on the left.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, the nature there, they're not afraid of anything.
Now
Oh,
this
shot.
picture, this picture is a horizontal, but if you made this into a vertical, that's the cover of Ghosts of Long Island, the second book, in
That's
in
it.
a black and white form. This was the shot that was chosen for the cover of that book.
Mhm. It's a longer shot of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, just beautiful. Imagine the guy who has to mow the lawn.
Yeah. It's a big job.
Job security, right?
Right.
Well, I just finished, sir. Okay, you can start. You start at the beginning again.
Exactly.
That's
And
pretty.
here, this I love because they just have such beautiful trees
Oh,
also on the
yeah.
property.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Really beautiful. Oh,
And
me
they're
in the
riding around.
barn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And the indoor
Look
ring.
at that size of that place.
Yeah.
How high, Margo? How high is that roof? Do you know?
I don't know.
Like
Yeah,
50
this
foot
is
or
a nice
something?
Yeah.
indoor arena.
That's some of the horses there.
Mhm.
You remember the bamboo, Kerriann?
Vaguely. There's another picture of Susie.
Yes, I think-
What's happening in this picture?
I think this was by the upper barn, but I'm not sure. But no, this is where that woman had the experience of her father.
Or was this where the figure was seen? I don't remember.
Maybe. Yeah. It's you actually was. I had a shot of you with a horse.
Mhm.
You had the horse. You were like coming out of the entrance. So this might have been the barn. But anyway, there was something about the bamboo. I don't. They had imported this bamboo or something. It was growing wild over here. So. And
Oh,
Looks like a
That's it.
ghostly cat.
that's
Look at the face. Was that one of your pictures, Joe?
That's one of my pictures. It's
That's
one of
funny.
as one of our past clients. She said, it's not one of mine.
Right.
I got this arm though, and this arm going. There you guys are.
Oh, there we go.
wow.
That's
Yeah.
so. That's Susie and Lisa, right?
Yeah.
Or was it Lisa Laurie? That's right.
Yeah.
Lisa Laura, yeah. It must have been the winter because you could see the snow there.
Yeah.
Aha!
It is Gail.
There's Gail. And this is in,
St. George's
in the
Manor
cemetery.
Cemetery.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, we have a
Chief
play
Gail
from-
Rivas.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Great
We have to
photos.
track Gail down. Get
Yeah.
her on the show.
Exactly. So what do we have as far as EVPs, Joe? I know we don't
I
have
had a-
too many.
No,
Because
I had a
again, we
bunch.
weren't, because it
Right.
was early on in our investigations. In fact, Margo, we were talking about this the last time. Joe and I should just come back at some point just to try the ghost
Oh,
Oh,
box,
absolutely.
because we would
Yeah.
get unbelievable things with that.
Definitely. And all right, so I'm going to play. Let me share the screen here. With sound. Oh, you can see Raynham Hall.
Mhm.
Okay,
yeah.
so reason I'm including Raynham Hall, of course, is because there is a connection with the Spy Ring and all these places, Robert Townsend and George Washington. This was part of one of my visits where we talked about the Culper Spy Ring. I think we talked about strong. This
We're losing you a little bit, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Is it me or is it?
we're talking about something prior and you hear the spirits say something like
The spirits have taken over. Joe,
Robert.
we're losing you. I don't know if it's because of
Hey,
that.
I'll become okay now. I'm back.
Joe.
Every time, okay, every time the EPs do this, they would do it by 8:30 o'clock. Back.
You're not back yet, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's
Am I here?
saying your audio is bad right now, Joe.
Maybe he's frozen also.
Yeah,
Let's
you're
see.
frozen. Do you want to come off the screen for a second, maybe?
Now,
Yeah, try to stop sharing screen.
Okay. You back with us, Joe?
Yeah. Did. How's that?
Okay, we're just
better?
waiting for you to come back.
Am I back?
No.
I don't know. I see you. Yeah, let me hang on.
It might be the spirits messing with us at the very
I've come
end.
to the other side of the veil. I see and hear you
Okay.
guys.
Yeah, we could see you, and hear you, but
The spirits are having fun.
okay. Well, we can hear you and we see you, but
Yeah,
you're
can you see
frozen.
my chat?
Yes, we see that, and everyone can hear you, but you seem to be,
Okay.
your face is frozen on the screen.
Okay, yeah. Let me know. Okay.
It was
Frozen.
fine until you went to do the EVPs.
I hope it's a good shot.
Yeah, you're
Let me know when I'm
smiling.
back. All right, I tell you what, I'm going to disconnect the internet and reconnect on a different server. Okay, so just
Okay, maybe because you were
I'll be
bringing
right
it up.
back.
Okay, a little technical
Right back.
difficulties. All right, there you go.
Yeah, let me try something here.
Okay.
Okay, let's see how this goes.
There you go.
Am I back?
Yep,
Yes.
you're back.
Okay, yeah, it was
Okay.
just.
So we missed
getting
what
that
you
good.
were saying. You were showing us a picture of Raynham Hall, and
Yeah, let me get that back up now that we can play those EVPs. Let me see, where did they go? Hold on. Yeah, so I was at Raynham Hall and I had done these events related. So this is just, I just want to include something fun. This was where I'm talking about organizing, setting priorities, and the spirit said, like, good. So I'm pretty sure it's Robert Townsend, who was Culper Jr., that's answering on this. So I'm going to share the screen now. And with sound, it should be okay now. Can you see that?
yes.
Okay, so I'll play the EVP.
I'm going to edit these as soon as maybe this weekend, and see what we get, because this will get priority over other stuff.
You hear him say good?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so this EVP, this is an interesting one. So I think we were at the Cedars. We were talking, remember the ropes? Remember those strange ropes that were hanging? We were trying to figure out.
Oh, vaguely. Do you remember this,
They-
Margo?
They were something about, was it a swing or somebody got hung there or something?
Oh,
And
yes, yes.
You made some joke about, or we made joke about, maybe I said it was something, maybe he was a midget or something, because they were like really small ropes. And if you listen carefully, you'll hear somebody say like, thank you or something. So I'll play it and then I'll point out when it comes up.
Did you buy the horse? Did you buy the horse yet? Excellent.
You want to take a picture of me in front of the Cedars?
Yeah, that'd be great.
See, it's good you noticed that about the tree. So many people don't. I
You're
see
gonna
lamps
mess with
going
your
on people's
voice,
heads.
Yeah,
Kerriann.
see the ropes? See the ropes?
That is cool how the tree grew right around it.
See what they
Around the
did to your
ropes.
voice?
It's amazing.
What were the ropes? What were they for?
Do you hear it?
Yeah, I
Thanks
know
a
you
lot.
said it.
No, it sounds like hang
Oh,
someone. That was
I got the
creepy.
recorder on.
Yeah, all right,
That's
we'll
a good
play
one
that
for the
again.
bloopers.
No, I heard hang someone.
Hang someone, okay.
Did you
Let me
hear
play
that,
it again.
Margo?
Mhm.
And they
Excellent.
mess with your voice right before that guy talks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
See, it's good you noticed that about the tree. So many people don't. I see lamps going on people's heads.
Yeah, no, see the ropes? See the ropes?
That is cool how the tree grew right around it.
Around the ropes.
It's amazing.
What were the ropes? What were they for?
To hang
That's
someone, you're
creepy.
right. He
That's
said
really
to,
creepy. You never
that's
played
said
that
to
one.
hang, he said to hang
That's a good one
someone.
for the bloopers.
Yeah, you get the blooper one, and we'll probably get an EVP now.
We are. Well, I took a picture and I asked the spirits what the purpose was.
Right.
I don't know what, maybe to tie up a dog,
Oh, maybe.
maybe an animal leash or something.
That
To
was
hang
very
someone.
strange. Yeah,
That
and
was strange.
Catherine says it sounds like hangs, who's listening.
Yeah, to hang someone, yeah, that makes more
I
sense.
can't believe I never heard that one, Joe.
I know. There's a lot of things you've
Wow.
never heard from me.
God.
Okay, this is Margo. Remember we did the ghost box at
Yes.
the neighborhood house?
We did an event here.
We
Also.
did an event here at Books Night, yeah. And so you'll hear two EVPs. One says, Melissa says hi, Margo says hi, and you
And
hear
this
her say
is
hi.
not far from Strong's Neck. I mean, this is in Setalcott.
Right, and it's all connected. And then, all right, so I'll just play it. The second EVP is harder to hear, but they say something like, we're here with you or something. But anyway, Margo never got to hear this. So.
Say hello to Margo. Hello. Are you with us tonight? Melissa, you're here. Can you come through? Hi, Melissa. Hi. Did you hear hi? You guys excited? We're going to do a lecture tonight on historic ghosts. That was Seton, sir.
Okay, so she said, "I'm with you, Joe."
Mhm.
You want to play it again?
Sure.
Okay, so the first one is hi, and then so they did answer you, Margo.
Yeah.
You weren't left highless.
Say hello to Margo. Hello. Are you with us tonight? Melissa, you're here. Can you come through? Hi, Melissa. Hi. Did you hear hi? You guys excited? We're going to do a lecture tonight on historic ghosts. That was Seton, sir.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do more of a ghost box there, but there were so many people, it was very noisy. So, okay, now this is about a minute and a half long clip. So this was the beginning of the clip. The chief is talking about the movie that I played the clip at the beginning, Time of Their Lives. She says, "Oh yeah, that's the movie where they have to find the letter from George Washington." So I had totally forgotten that she had said that. So when I got this clip, I was going to play just the part where you hear the hawk, but this is kind of interesting. It leads in. And here, in Abbott Costello is a tinker in the movie Time of Their Lives, who's working for George Washington as a patriot. And I've had the EVP that says tinker several times, including one, I think, at Raynham Hall. So the first EVP is me, you hear the spirit saying tinker. And the second EVP is the conversation the chief has, where she talks about the warring tribe, the Pequots, coming across in the canoes, coming across the sound to attack. And then you'll hear the hawk answer her. So here we go.
Many spirits here.
Okay, so that's the spirit saying tinker.
Many spirits here.
All right, and here's the chief.
Well, it's during
Yes,
the
he's a
revolution.
tinker.
Yeah,
and then he gets
yeah.
stuck in between two spots.
Oh, isn't that
Yes.
funny? Because I didn't know. I bought it because
Yes.
Joe was telling me.
Yes,
And
he
that's,
gets
yeah.
stuck.
He gets stuck,
And
and
he was the spy, and it was hidden away inside something. I forget
The
what.
clock, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and they couldn't release his body because they thought he was a bad spy
Yeah,
against the
that's
people.
right.
Right.
and recently, when I was at Raynham Hall on the last trip, just last week before, but the one before that, I got a voice of someone saying, I think it was at Raynham Hall, said Tinker. Tinker. I said, well, welcome Tinker to me.
It's
And
Tinker
now-
Bluff.
Tinker Bluff overlooks Connecticut.
Yes,
Well,
it
yeah,
overlooks
it's talking
Connecticut.
Port Chaff Harbor.
It's higher than Belterre.
Yeah, it's the highest point.
Right.
It's higher than Belterre, and we owned that property
Yeah.
for a long time. But either way, the Connecticut Indians were based in this area, in the swamps here. And what they did is that they always had an outlook on Tinker Bluff. And when the war broke out in Connecticut, they could see the Indians coming across. And they sounded the war noise out. And the women and children were put on canoes, and they took this route all the way past the Hawk.
What does that signify?
I hold the Hawk,
Yes.
Oh.
the Thunderbird.
The hawk is here for you.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I forgot
Yeah.
how wild that
I
hawk
miss Gail.
sound.
The
I know.
hawk-
I mean, she
the
was
hawk
just,
it was
you couldn't
great.
write this. I
You
mean,
could
it
not
was,
write. I mean, when she says they put the
Yeah.
women and children in the canoes and they coming down, they went across the route, or they took the route.
Yeah.
As soon as she says route,
and then that hawk, that
the
was
hawk
unbelievable.
just cries. Yeah, you can kind of hear the hawk calling, like like click click, like its voice starting to do that, like a little before. But
that
the
was
hawk was
amazing.
flying because the cemetery, right, Margo, was elevated like a bluff.
Yeah.
The hawk was flying on the thermals, I guess, looking for rodents to eat or something. But yeah, it was really the Thunderbird.
Yeah,
She called
really
it.
interesting.
Or
If you
little
could
Joe
get
Giaquinto's to eat.
if you could get a copy of Ghosts of Long Island 2, you got to read that story. If not, like I said, it is available in e-format. So at this point, that concludes our webinar. I want to see, does anyone have any questions for us or for Margo, or any comments for us tonight? While you're thinking of questions, we do have one more webinar coming up this month, and it's going to be on Thursday, May 20th, and it's going to be on deep wells in St. James. That is going to finalize our series that we've been doing since October, and we want to take this time to thank all of our listeners, our participants who have kept us going all this time. It's been wonderful to do this for you. And next month I will be getting my manuscript back for Haunted Long Island Mysteries. So I will be busy reading that and giving that one last look over before it goes into publication. And Margo, I mean, it was just wonderful having you join us for a second time. Kim in our chat room says, thank you. This was wonderful to watch. And I'm not going to give anything away, but Kim in our chat, you will be able to read about Kim and her story in my next book about a private home. So do stay tuned for Haunted Long Island Mysteries. We do have a question here from Jean. Let's see. Did we lose Jean's question?
She wants to know, why is the Amityville house burial ground very negative, but the Culper Spy Ring place seems very peaceful?
I think with the Amityville horror, because it's just the nature of those murderers, I think, and because it was in an enclosed area. The other thing which people don't realize is that the Amityville horror house was built on top of sacred Indian ground as well. And it was also an area where a lot of Indians were. It was almost like a hospital. So it just depends. I mean, there's totally different energy between Strong's Neck and Amityville horror, that's for sure. Okay, so Jean says, isn't Culper sacred ground? I think it is, personally,
Catherine had a question.
Yeah.
If you or any of your participants had any spirit experiences on your walks. Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of pictures. They get a lot of orbs. Especially
really?
on Woodhull's property.
Mm-hmm. And what do people tell you on the tours, Margo? Do they sense anything?
They totally sense it. They can feel it, especially when we go to the Setalcott Presbyterian Church Cemetery and the St. George's Manor Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And Margo, do you do your tours in the day, the evening, at dusk?
In the day. Yeah.
The day. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us that website again?
Culper.com.
Okay. All right, great. And right now you're booked until July.
Indians die at Culper Spy too. Oh, I'm sure they did. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why, Jean. I don't know why there's a difference in energy. Maybe these Joe or Kerriann could better answer that question.
As far as the Amityville, Kerriann, you did the story on that. You did the research because you felt it was a story that you had to include in the book.
Right.
But we didn't actually go investigate the house.
Right.
I think it all has to do with what creates the energy initially. Now, in the case where you talked about the energy of the feminine energy of, in your property, you talk about the spirits, the Revolutionary War spirits, the soldiers, the kids playing. That's a very interesting, positive, maybe sad energy. Amityville was a different thing. Amityville, you actually had a drugged, crazed person who there was a murder. He murdered his family, and it was a whole different energy. So that bad energy got imprinted. Right. And of course, sometimes when you open up this portal of negative energy, other things start to add to it. So,
and Francis,
I also think Setalcott, I think Strong's Neck is very protected, as you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's another reason why the good energy stays there.
And Francis is saying that she's glad that we keep the stories alive because it keeps the spirits here. I agree. Do we have another question here? I think we answered them all, correct? Did we get everyone's questions?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you both so much for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's always
This is
great. We have to come in person. We'll have our next adventure, and then we can come back
Yes.
and tell some more stories.
Definitely, we will. So Margo, thank you so much for joining us
Margo.
tonight,
Nice
and
to see
we
you
will
guys.
catch up with you soon at Strong's Neck. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.